Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
Alexander Cooper, Chicago, death penalty.
Accused drug kingpin Alexander Cooper ran his multi-million-dollar drug empire like a big business in which he was chief executive officer, and ordered the execution of his financial advisor after he threatened the dynasty, a federal prosecutor charged Monday. According to Chicago Tribune, if convicted, Cooper, 31, would be the first person to face the death penalty under a 1988 federal law that makes the murder of a government informant a capital offense.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to Illinois with it. Chicago. And this story is going to take place circa 1989. The golden era, the crack era, the money era. And today we're going to be covering a guy by the name of Alexander Cooper, and a little bit about Alexander Cooper. According to the Chicago Tribune, by day, Alexander Cooper was an $11.92 an hour laborer that was employed as a garbage collector for the city of Chicago. But by night, he was known as Ghost, a 30-year-old boss of a network of drug dealers whose clientele of heroin and cocaine users spanned from Chicago to Gary all the way to East Chicago. Now, before we kind of get any further talking about Mr. Cooper, this story kind of hits so many levels, and it pretty much almost reminds me of a conversation that I had with a friend where we were speaking in terms of when is it okay to stand pat, or when is it okay to not trying to hustle more or not trying to take that risk. And from what we discovered is it's pretty much a personal situation where really our individual situation is going to be based on each individual. Whereas me, I'm always trying to get it. Enough is never enough, and pretty much that's just me. And I think it comes with, I guess, where you are, or I guess what you got going on. But for me, I pretty much been like that. And I want to get a census or a poll. What do you guys think? Is it just okay to kind of sit back and not take the risk, or do you take any risk that comes to you that's calculated, that you can make money off, no matter whether you have $0 or whether you have $900 million, or whether you was at your lowest point or highest point? You let me know, what is your perspective. Now, I don't want to get too off. Back to Mr. Cooper, because this is just, like I said, a whole level of story. Now, Alexander Cooper's double life surfaced when indictments came out in 1989 against 21 people, including his mother and 4 other family members of his, and they were named in federal drug conspiracy charges. And according to U.S. Attorney Anton Balakis, it was a family operation. They distributed cocaine and heroin on the street corners of Chicago, mostly focused on the areas around 79th and 81st Streets and Cottage Grove. Now, if anybody's from Cottage Grove tuned in, y'all get in the comment box, let me know. I'm looking to plan a vacation. I want to know what it's like around there. can't really trust the reviews that I'm reading online on TripAdvisor and bullshit like that. Now, according to the government, they're going to say the drug ring has been operating on the city's south side and in western Indiana for the past 7 years. So that's going to push them to the early 80s because the indictments happened around 1989. So they're going to say they were involved in multi-kilogram distribution, and the indictments were released after a series of pre-dawn raids in which 10 people were arrested, like we said, including Mr. Cooper's mother, Bertha Cooper, who was 57 at the time of the arrest, and agents raided her house at 7730 South Yates Boulevard, and the raids were carried out by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, along with Chicago police, Cooper's two brothers, Gerald, who was 25 at the time, and Sigmund, who was 21 at the time, and his sister, Juanita Miller, who was 31, and a cousin, Christina Cooper. They were also arrested, along with a litany of other people. Now, authorities say that Alexander Cooper derived his nickname from his reputation among fellow garbage men as a no-show ghost payroller, as well as his ability to elude detection. His job in the Department of Streets and Sanitation was intended only to provide him with a source of legitimate income, while nowhere near the sums generated by his illicit earnings, and that was according to government officials. Investigators say he earned so much money from his drug sales that he seldom would cash any of his paychecks, usually only going to cash them when they piled up in standards of 6 or more, just so they don't go bad. When he was arrested, and in an inventory of his personal possessions listed him with over $100,000 in cash, over $150,000 in jewelry, and over $50,000 in uncashed city payroll and private checks. They also recovered papers that looked like false documents for a passport. And similarly, on June 28th of 1989, federal drug agents reported seizing $58,000 in cash and the keys to 9 cars and a motorcycle that Alexander Cooper owned. U.S. Marshals confiscated 10 pieces of property in Chicago, Gary, and Arlington Heights that were owned by Alexander Cooper or members of his family. The properties were worth an estimated $1.2 million, and they were taken on the grounds that they were obtained with drug money. Among them was Alexander Cooper's apartment on the second floor of a building housing at the Stop Restaurant, a Southside landmark of 41 years, and that's located on 6601-15 South King Drive. In 1989, Robert Parker started working for Alexander Cooper, laundering and investing proceeds from Cooper's drug enterprise. In July 1988, Parker contacted the Internal Revenue Service for the purpose of providing detailed information concerning Cooper's financial assets and drug trafficking. This contact eventually led to federal agents setting Parker up as an informant operating from an office and an apartment at the Doral Plaza Hotel in Chicago's Loop area. From Doral, the federal agents planned to monitor Cooper's drug enterprise. In early January 1989, Cooper discovered that Parker was acting as an informant for the government and began making arrangements to get rid of him. Cooper met several times with high-level members of his organization, including Anthony Davis, regarding the problem Parker posed to the organization. On the evening of February 6, 1989, Cooper, other members of his organization picked Parker up at Doral and transported him to the Stop Restaurant, located at 6607 South King Drive in Chicago, Illinois. After a brief conversation with Cooper, Parker and Davis left the restaurant together. Shortly before midnight, Parker's body was discovered lying by the curbing on a Chicago street. He had been shot 5 times, twice in the head with a .380 caliber semi-automatic pistol. Federal agents arrested Cooper on July 23, 1989. At the time of the arrest, Cooper had in his possession almost $130,000 in cash, approximately $150,000 in jewelry, travel documents for Brazil and Nigeria, and false identification, including the application for a passport and a false name. On July 24, 1989, pursuant to a search warrant, Chicago police searched Davis's apartment. The police found cocaine, drug paraphernalia, a loaded .357 Magnum revolver, a .22 caliber rifle, and an empty .380 caliber ammunition box, and pictures of Davis posing with guns. On March 24, 1990, federal agents arrested Davis. In 1983, Robert Parker started working for